the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you to everyone for being here today. I'm Michelle Gordon, the County Administrator for the Washington County Board of County Commissioners. We're excited to have you all here tonight, and I would like to introduce and thank our Board of County Commissioners for all that they do for Washington County. I'll start with President John Barr, Vice President Jeff Klein, Commissioner Randy Wagner, Commissioner Derek Harvey, and our newest Commissioner, Randy Leatherman. Can you have the next slide? Before we get started, I would like to again extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us this evening for the fiscal year 26 public hearing on the budget. I would also like to thank county staff for their dedication and hard work. Department heads and elected officials spent a significant amount of time and placed considerable thought into the operating and capital requests, revenue expenditures, as well as their expenditure estimates. That included performing historical trending and analyses, prioritizing needs, and balancing the fiscal year 26 budget for Washington County, its residents, businesses, and visitors. You'll hear greater detail later in this presentation from Kelsey Mace, our Chief Financial Officer. However, I wanted to stress and highlight some important details that our CFO may also repeat, as they are important details. This fiscal year was particularly challenging as we were faced with unexpected cost shifts and revenue reductions from the state of Maryland. Some of those shifts included reductions in revenues of $3 million for changes to the income tax deduction structure, $543,000 in reductions for funding for the Maryland State Department of Assessment and Taxation. And in 2010, the state began reducing funding for maintenance of roads and highways, and that estimated cost shift for fiscal year 26 is a reduction of $10 million in highway user revenues. Cost shifts included expenditure increases of $250,000 for state mandated positions at the Commission on Aging, $2.4 million for teacher and community college state pension costs, and $10.6 million for Blueprint Foundation formula funding, which makes the total increase for WCPS, or Washington County Public Schools, $12.7 million, or 11.5%. Despite those challenges and unexpected shifts, it is important for me to emphasize that the Board of County Commissioners, our department heads, and our budget and finance staff have instilled strong financial management practices and policies. As a result, all three rating agencies, which include Fitch Rating Agency, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's rating agencies, have assigned and affirmed the county's ratings of AA+ or AA1 for existing and upcoming debt. All three agencies noted that the county's fiscal responsibility and debt profile measures at a AAA rating. They noted that we have strong expenditure control and a high level of budget flexibility. Washington County's tax base is stable and expanding with a strong revenue framework. The county's debt profile is also strong. It shows that Washington County has a low long-term liability burden related to debt, pension, and OPEB costs, and affordable debt service costs with very limited budgetary pressure. All three agencies noted that Washington County has strong reserves and cash balances. The economic growth in our county will only strengthen our ratings in time. We look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts about the proposed budget. This public hearing is being held to consider the county's proposed fiscal year 26 budget and the proposed fiscal year 26 tax rate. This evening, we will provide an overview of the funding sources and allocation of resources that are proposed in the fiscal year 26 budget based on the unchanged and proposed fiscal year 26 tax rates. Next slide. Copies of the Citizens Guide to the Budget are available in the lobby this evening and may also be found on the county's website at www.washco-md.net. The Citizens Guide to the Budget contains a budget overview, a general fund summary, a debt summary, and expenditures by function, among other things. Please take a moment to view it online or download the document. This document is created by our Budget and Finance Department to enhance your understanding of how Washington County is organized, the services provided by the county, and the funding sources for those services. Staff strives to deliver the citizens of Washington County with the highest quality of services as efficiently and economically as possible, making every dollar count. Next slide, please. The county provides a variety of services that includes law enforcement, emergency services, and emergency management to protect our residents and visitors. The county provides for planning and zoning, permits and inspections, highways and road maintenance, transit services for residents, environmental management and amenities in our county parks and recreation to make sure that Washington County is the ideal place to live, work, and play. As you can see, the needs of the citizens of Washington County are at the forefront of all that we do in county government. Ensuring that the county's scarce resources are allocated in a fiscally responsible manner, while at the same time understanding and recognizing that the needs of our constituents are the driving force behind our budgetary decisions. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Next slide, please. County government focuses on 5 priority areas: education, which includes Washington County Public Schools, our libraries, and Hagerstown Community College; public safety, which includes law enforcement, emergency communications, emergency medical services, and fire; economic development, which will ensure smart growth in our community; human services, and infrastructure for our facilities, equipment, and roads. Staff and county officials concentrate on these priority areas during the budgetary process as we seek to responsibly allocate county funds. Next slide. For fiscal year 2026, the proposed budget includes no proposed tax rate changes for either real property tax or income tax rates. The real property tax rate for fiscal year 26 will remain the same at 92.8 cents per $100 of assessed value, and the proposed income tax rate will remain the same at 2.95%. The proposed fiscal year 26 budget is balanced based on those proposed tax rates. I'd also like to thank Kelsey Mace, the county's Chief Financial Officer, Kim Edlund, our Director of Budget and Finance, and Deb Dickey, our Senior Budget Analyst, as well as all of our Budget and Finance team for the work done to complete the budget. They deserve a round of applause. At this time, I will turn over our presentation to Kelsey Mace, our Chief Financial Officer. She will provide an overview of the fiscal year 26 proposed budget for operating and capital. Again, thank you for joining us tonight for the fiscal year 26 budget presentation.
Good evening. Each year, the budget process begins in November and is typically completed in May. There are 3 major phases of our budget process. The development phase begins with our departments, elected officials, and outside agencies as they submit their requests for the upcoming fiscal year. The next phase includes a detailed review, and modifications are made based on available resources and board priorities. And lastly, the budget is formally adopted. Financial forecasts, economic trends, policy review, and citizen input are all important parts of this process. Many of you are familiar with the county's largest fund, our general fund, since this is where taxpayer dollars are budgeted and accounted for. You may not know that the county budgets for and operates a total of 21 funds with more than 150 departments. Each year, county personnel analyze, review, and prioritize the budget for over 2,800 account combinations before presenting the proposed budget to the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide. The total proposed budget, including both operating and capital funds, is $505 million. The proposed operating budget makes up 78% of the budget at $394.2 million. The proposed capital budget makes up the remaining 22% at $110.7 million. Next slide. The general fund is our largest operating fund, representing 82% of the total operating budget. Next slide. The largest revenue source across all operating funds is taxes, making up 81% of the budget. This includes property tax, income tax, recordation tax, admissions and amusement tax, trailer tax, hotel rental tax, and ag transfer taxes. The second largest revenue source are charges for services, which include planning and permit fees, EMS transport fees, landfill fees, water and sewer fees, transit fares, and airport fees, to highlight a few. Salary and benefits for employees makes up about a third of the operating budget. Included in the proposed budget is a 1% COLA and 2.5% step for all employees, as well as funding to decompress the salary scale for civilian employees. Also included in the salaries and benefits budget is a 1% COLA for retirees. Operating expenses make up the largest expense at 60% of the budget. These expenses include allocations to other agencies, such as Washington County Public Schools, Hagerstown Community College, and the Washington County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. Utilities, building and equipment maintenance, vehicle fuel maintenance, supplies, software, service contracts, and more. Debt service on bonds and state loans makes up 6% of the operating budget. Debt service payments are based on a fixed schedule that is determined at the time the debt is issued. Next slide. Annual debt service averaged $20.1 million per year over the last 10 years. Each year, prior to issuing bonds, careful consideration is taken on how the new debt issue will affect the annual debt service costs. A debt capacity and affordability analysis is performed each year and provides a method by which the county's debt position can be evaluated, tested for stress and affordability, and compared with other jurisdictions. The analysis provides the county commissioners and citizens with a way to assess the impact of the bond issuance. The results of this year's analysis is shown here. The amount of tax-supported debt that could be issued is determined at 3 different levels, which includes a poor economy, a normal growth economy, or a thriving economy. The amount was determined not to exceed $18 million in a thriving economy, $14 million in a poor economy, and $16 million being the cap for a normal growth economy. The results show that under each scenario, key ratios stay below policy in our peer group counties. Next slide. The proposed general fund budget for FY26 is $323,115,430. The main sources of revenue for the general fund are property and income taxes, which average 92% of budgeted revenues over the last 5 years. Next slide. Property tax is estimated at $164.2 million and makes up 51% of the general fund budget. The budget is based on assessed values provided by the State Department of Assessments and Taxation. The county and municipality homestead credit caps the annual increase in assessment at 5%, and the state homestead credit caps the increase at 10%, resulting in an average increase for homeowners of about 6%. The budget for property tax includes a reduction of $543,830 for additional costs of property tax administration shifted from the state onto the county. Previously, the county was responsible for 50% of the cost, but the state has increased that responsibility to 90%. Income tax makes up the next largest portion of the budget at 40% of the budget, at $130 million. This budget is based on past performance and forecasted trends. The budget for income tax includes a reduction of $3 million for the estimated impact of the changes made to the standard deduction amounts used to compute taxable income made by the state. Other local taxes, which include recordation, admissions and amusement, and trailer tax, make up 3% or $8.3 million. Interest income is $4.8 million or 1%, and charges for services and grants for operations make up the final 5% or $15.7 million of the budget. Next slide. Revenues increased $22.5 million over the FY25 budget. The FY26 budget maintains the real property tax rate at 92.8 cents per $100 of assessed value and the income tax rate at 2.95%. The budget increase does reflect the addition of fees related to fire prevention and inspection services that the county will perform in-house instead of through the state fire marshal's office, and the increase to the 911 fee that was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on March 18th. Lastly, the budget includes applying for a SAFER grant to fund the 9 new firefighter positions. Next slide. Education and public safety are the largest expense categories for the general fund, which average about 71% of expenditures over the last 5 years. Debt service, which is included in the capital category, averages between 5 and 6% of the budget. Next slide. For FY26, education and public safety activities combined represent 71% of the budget, or $228.2 million. Funding for Washington County Public Schools represents the single largest expenditure at $122.8 million, or 38% of the general fund budget. Public safety includes funding for police, emergency services, animal control, emergency management, and 911 communications. Next slide. The budget for the Board of Education includes a direct allocation to Washington County Public Schools of $120.6 million, which is an increase of $10.4 million or 9.5% over fiscal year 25. This amount is mandated by the state under the blueprint. The budget also includes an additional $2.2 million for pension costs that were shifted from the state onto the county during the recent legislative session. The overall increase from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 is $12.7 million or 11.5%. Next slide. The other education category includes funding for Hagerstown Community College, Washington County Free Library, and maintenance for library buildings. The budget of $16.2 million includes direct allocation to Hagerstown Community College of $10.5 million and direct allocation to the Free Library of $4.9 million. This budget also includes an additional $165,000 for pension costs shifted from the state onto the county during the 25 legislative session. Overall, the increase from 25 to 26 is $307,000 or 2%. Next slide. The fire and EMS budget of $29.5 million supports our paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. As part of the Board of County Commissioners' commitment to ensuring the public safety of citizens, the budget includes funding for EMS transition from volunteer to county paid employees. The budget also provides direct support to volunteer fire and rescue companies totaling $9.3 million, which includes base support, response assistance, and reimbursement for fuel, maintenance, and utilities. The base support per station is proposed to increase 3% from $110,000 to $113,000. The increase from fiscal year 25 to 26 is $3 million or 11.3%. Next slide. The police and 911 budget of $56.9 million supports our patrol officers, correction officers, and 911 call center. It also supports the emergency management office. During fiscal year 25, the Board of County Commissioners recognized the need for additional officers and approved the addition of 5 new corrections officers and 8 new patrol officers. The increase from the FY25 budget to FY26 is $1.2 million or 2.2%. Next slide. The courts and state agencies budget of $16.1 million supports 11 functions, including circuit court, state's attorney, election board, and health department. The budget includes the addition of a 4th early voting site and personnel to support it. The increase from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 is $0.5 million or 3.4%. Next slide. The other agencies' budget of $3.2 million includes funding for the Commission on Aging, Museum of Fine Arts, and community funding grants, which are open to nonprofits that are on the Section 1108 list. The increase from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 is $252,000 or 8.4%. $250,000 of the increase is to fully fund the Commission on Aging's budget request, which was in response to state mandates for additional positions. Next slide. The other governmental budget of $38.1 million captures all the other services provided by the general fund budget across 34 departments, including the county administrator, county attorney, treasurer's office, budget and finance, engineering, permits and inspections, planning and zoning, and parks and rec, to name a few. Funding for the retiree COLA of 1% and the wage scale decompression are also funded in the $38.1 million. The increase from 25 to 26 is $4.2 million, or 12.2%. Next slide. Total expenditures increased $22.5 million. Again, these increases provide $10.4 million more in direct allocation to the Board of Education, $2.4 million for state cost shifts related to teacher pension, a 1% COLA and 2.5% step for employees, funding to decompress the salary scale for civilian employees, a 1% COLA for retirees, continuing investment in the EMS transition plan, 9 additional firefighter positions, additional funding for volunteer fire and rescue companies, and additional funding for Commission on Aging. Next slide. The Highway Fund is budgeted for separately from the General Fund and is one of our larger funds with a proposed budget of $14.3 million. It is primarily supported by the General Fund with an appropriation of $10.4 million. Anticipated highway user revenue for FY26 is approximately $3.4 million, reflecting a $400,000 increase from FY25. Prior to 2010, the Highway Fund was 100% funded with highway user revenue, which has been a significant cost shift under the county from the state. Overall, the highway budget increased $463,000, or 3.3% over the FY25 budget. Next slide. The county has 11 other governmental funds with a total proposed budget of $11.8 million. The budgets in these funds are restricted for specific purposes, such as land preservation or gaming grants. Overall, governmental fund budgets increased $357,000 over fiscal year 25. Next slide. Other governmental funds are supported primarily with restricted taxes, fees, and grants, which make up 92% of their budget. General fund support only makes up 7% of their budget. Next slide. An enterprise fund is a fund that operates like a business. These funds are distinct and separate from governmental funds and focus on specific activities like utilities or trash services. They are used for services like water, wastewater, and solid waste. Fees directly cover the cost of operations, and the goal is self-sufficiency, meaning the cost of providing services should be recovered through user fees. The county has 5 enterprise funds, which include the airport, transit, Black Rock Golf Course, solid waste, and water quality. The total proposed budget for enterprise funds is $44.9 million. This reflects an increase of $2.6 million, or 6.2%. Water quality funds include the Utility Admin Fund, Water Fund, Sewer Fund, and Pretreatment Fund. Cost increases across the enterprise funds are related to increased personnel costs, increases for supplies and materials due to inflation, such as chemicals for water quality operations, the maintenance of closed landfill sites, and increasing capital needs for the future retention or expansion of services, such as the additional cells needed at the landfill. Water quality and solid waste operations must be done to meet the requirements that are set by the Maryland Department of the Environment. Next slide. Enterprise funds should be supported by user fees. User fees represent 69% of the budgeted revenues for fiscal year 26. The budget reflects a 5% increase to water rates, 3.5% increase to sewer rates, increases to various utility administrative fees, increases to permit and tipping fees at the landfill, and an increase in T-hanger rates at the airport of 3%. Many of the utility administrative fees have not been adjusted in over 10 years. The landfill fees have not been adjusted in 8 years. The use of fund balance reserves represents 8% or $3.4 million of the budget. When an enterprise fund has excess revenue in a given year, the excess is placed into reserves and are used to reduce the general fund burden in future years, to fund capital equipment, and to build up funds to pay for large capital expansion projects. Grants and other miscellaneous revenues represent 13% of the budget and increased 3.8% over fiscal year 25. The transit fund relies heavily on grant revenue to operate. Lastly, general fund support represents 5% of the budget, which is a decrease of $318,000 or 13%. In fiscal year 26, $394,000 will support solid waste programs that do not generate revenue. $961,000 will support stormwater and watershed operations. $151,000 will support water fund operations. $562,000 will support transit operations, and $97,000 will support the Black Rock Golf Course operation. Next slide. Capital budgeting is a critical component in serving our citizens. The fiscal year 26 capital budget totals $110.7 million, and the proposed 10-year plan totals $880.9 million. The fiscal year 26 budget assumes issuing $14 million in tax-supported bonds and $8.3 million in self-supported bonds, receiving $7.6 million from the general fund and using $15.6 million of capital reserves. Grants and contributions represent 50% of the budget at $55.7 million. Next slide. Education represents the largest investment in fiscal year 26, with 37% of the budget, and includes projects for Washington County Public Schools, Hagerstown Community College, and the library system. The next largest investment is at the airport at 21% of the budget. Next slide. Some of the major projects being funded in the 26 10-year capital plan includes the elementary school on Downsville Pike, the next replacement elementary school, in addition to Jonathan Hager Elementary, improvements and extensions of Eastern Boulevard, improvements to Wright Road, and continuation of our pavement maintenance program, renovations at 540 Maryland Parkway to relocate patrol administrative services, and improvements to the women's facility at the detention center. The next phase of the Public Safety Training Center, which include the Tactical Village and Indoor Firing Range. Currently, the driving track and burn building are funded in FY25. Planning for the next upgrade for Smithsburg Wastewater Treatment Plant, replacement of the air traffic control tower and expansion of the terminal building at the airport, renovations of the Administrative and Student Affairs Building, Advanced Technology Center, and ARCC at Hagerstown Community College, the construction of cells 5 and 8 to expand the landfill, and partial capping of 40 West landfill to start closing the inactive cells. Next slide. Michelle has already said this, but it's important to emphasize again. The county currently holds an AA+ bond rating from rating agencies. This rating is extremely important for the county's ability to secure the best interest rate possible when issuing bonds. This rating provides confidence to investors and other stakeholders as it represents our solid financial position, strong fiscal policies, and that the economy in Washington County is stable. The county was upgraded to AA+ by Standard & Poor's in 2014, with Fitch and Moody's following in 2015. The county has maintained the AA+ rating for the 10 years since due to our financial flexibility, low debt per capita, low long-term liability burden, comprehensive financial policies, and strong financial management. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. And that concludes my part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. That concludes the Budget and Finance staff presentation of the fiscal year 26 operating capital budget. I'd like to thank you for attending this evening. And at this time, we will begin the public comment portion of the public hearing. I'll turn it over to President Barr. When President Barr begins the hearing, he will have a few announcements. President Barr will have the public comment sign-up sheet to call names of the speakers. The microphone for the public comment portion is in the middle of the aisle here. As President Barr calls your name, please make your way to the microphone and wait on deck as the next person in line. Once the person before you has finished speaking, you can then move to the microphone. And as a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Thank you for being considerate of each other's time, and I'll turn it over to President Barr at this time.
Thank you, Administrator Gordon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here on this wet, drizzly evening. This is a public hearing concerning the proposed tax rates and county budget. We will now hear public comment, and the hearing will proceed in the following manner. We will take comments in order in which individuals have signed in to speak. If you wish to speak but haven't yet signed in, please do so in the lobby, or I guess Michelle will be over here at the side door. Individuals will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to testify. This is our opportunity to hear your thoughts on the county's budget. It is not an interactive dialogue or a question and answer session. In the interest of time, if you agree with the position of someone who has previously testified, you may simply identify yourself and state that you agree with a prior speaker. We will then move on to the next speaker. You may only speak once this evening. I'll call 2 names at a time so that while a person is speaking, the next person can be making his or her way to the microphone. Please be respectful and use appropriate decorum. We thank you for actively participating in this civic process. Before we begin, I must and I'm going to read a statement that pertains to the conduct and decorum of this meeting. I want to address the new rules. We have received constructive comments from several community members who value the First Amendment as well as we do and want to make sure that our rules do not abridge anyone's rights. First, our rules are not meant to restrict viewpoints. All you have to do is watch the past few months' meetings to see that we are extremely tolerant of critical comments and allow them to be expressed. At the same time, preservation of order at a public meeting to ensure that the meetings can be efficiently conducted is a legitimate government interest. The Constitution allows the county to establish reasonable rules to that end. Our new rules are reasonable and viewpoint neutral because all of them have the single objective of preventing actual disturbances at the meetings. All viewpoints are welcome. All we ask is that speakers maintain a conduct, volume, and tone that does not disrupt the meeting. I'm quoting here from federal courts that have addressed this issue. It is well established that a citizen addressing a city government body in a limited public forum may be stopped from speaking if the speech is irrelevant or repetitive, or disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the council meeting, so long as the speaker is not stopped from speaking because the moderator disagrees with the viewpoint he or she is expressing. We will conduct ourselves accordingly. Regarding profanity, it is settled law that reasonable restrictions on profanity that disrupts the meeting are constitutionally valid restrictions. The question is, when such language becomes disruptive, it is my job to make this distinction. We occasionally have children who come to these meetings. In that case, excessive, repetitive profanity that serves no purpose other than shock value will be disruptive to the meeting, as it will require parents to leave the room and impede the children's and their parents' ability to access the meeting. We also have people who watch at home. These people have every right to access these meetings. But if a speaker uses the extreme, excessive, and repetitive profanity such that cable television and social media restricts access to our videos, in my opinion, that is disruptive because it impedes the access of those at home. I'm going to ask all speakers, regardless of viewpoint, to be sensitive to the rights of others when speaking. If profanity gets out of hand in a way that is excessive and repetitive and disruptive, I will ask you to stop, regardless of the viewpoint being expressed. Finally, I ask all speakers to be mindful to others. If a speaker's conduct, volume, or tone is such that a reasonable person will view it as threatening or aggressive, such that they reasonably fear danger of bodily harm or for that reason want to leave the meeting, I will ask the speaker to cease the conduct, lower the volume, or change the tone of their remarks, regardless of viewpoint, so that they can make their viewpoint known without disrupting or impeding the meeting. The rules are a work in progress, and we are grateful to the community members who have provided their input. Our hope is that speakers will feel comfortable to express their viewpoint while being sensitive to others so that all viewpoints can be heard. Thank you. So at this time, I'd like, first on the list is Billy Woods. Excuse me, Billy. Next up on deck is Curtis Ray. Proceed.
Good evening, Commissioners and County staff. My name is Billy Woods, and first I'd like to acknowledge that Unfortunately, many of our members are currently responding or in Allegheny County for the emergency there, or else they'd be here. I have the honor of serving as the Vice President of IAF Local 1605, Hagerstown Professional Firefighters. I'd like to acknowledge the difficult decisions that you've had to make throughout this budget cycle. Navigating the fiscal pressures passed down from the state has not been easy, yet you've remained committed to maintaining strong public safety funding. On behalf of Local 1605, sincerely thank you for the continued support. I encourage you to continue to have the difficult discussions that are required to continue to solidify the public safety systems throughout the county. Our partnership with the county is built on shared values: public service, safety, community investment. This past weekend, Local 1605 put on the Bonanza Extravaganza, an event that not only brings thousands of people together, but also helps us give back in meaningful ways. Throughout the Bonanza and the Local 1605 Foundation, we proudly donated over $2.1 million to local charities. Some of those highlights include the Meredith Foundation, Children's Village, Brooks House, over $180,000 in scholarships, and $40,000 for Codes for Kids. These efforts reflect the deep roots the firefighters have in this community, which is not as just first responders, but as neighbors, mentors, and advocates. Thank you again for your support. We look forward to continuing this partnership, serving our community, and ensuring Walsh County remains a safe, thriving place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Next is Curtis Ray, and on deck is Carol Mallon.
Hello, my name is Curtis Ray. I am a candidate for County Commissioner for 2026. Main problem already, if you all look at this pamphlet, right on the front, it says that this budget can be altered all the way up until July 1st. If you all were following along with the presentation, even while with the Citizens Guide, they have already been deceptive. Immediately, there was two massive issues. Our income tax was different immediately. And then on top of that, the amount of bond debt we're taking out is already altered. They had probably 6 months to work on this, and they're already feeding us lies. You have to understand, every year we get audited as a county, right? And it's starting to make sense why we get audited as a county and why we're always wrong. It's because we fluff these numbers up for this budget. We always do it, it seems. And it makes sense now why we do it. We're trying to deceive our own people that are supposed to rely on us to give them actual, real data. We're only hurting the people by doing this. I cannot stress this enough. Within 2 seconds, there was already a discrepancy with this. And just to go to show, I'm going to go back to the bond debt here. We're taking out almost $20.5 million in bond debt again. All that does is push it off onto the future generation, and they were doing that 10 years ago. So now we're reaping what we sowed 10 years ago, and that's why we have to pay almost $16 million to the already bond debt. And that money could have been allocated to water quality. I could have made everybody's bill disappear, just like that. If we did not keep taking out this credit card debt, because that's what it is. It's credit card debt. We're taking out credit card debt, whether we want to agree with it or not. That's what's happening. We're trying to ease the tax burden on the people now and then push it off onto the future. They did that 10 years ago. It's just going to keep rinse and repeating. We have to future-proof this county. We have to be able to give something to our kids that come after. We can't keep squeezing the county dry just to make people happy in the now. We need to actually start coming up with solutions to these problems instead of taking out more debt. And another thing about the rating, the AA rating, the only reason we have a AA rating is because of COVID. That's it. It was not fiscal responsibility. It was because our asset value climbed dramatically, just like everybody else's did. The county has asset value based on infrastructure. It went from $900 million to $1.4 billion. If you looked at that, that was a massive increase. And because of such, we were actually about to be downgraded from a AA to a single A. Do not take credit for something that you did not do. It was strictly by chance that we did not get downgraded. I do not understand why we want to keep purveying such lies to our own people. It makes no sense.
Next is Carol Mallon. On deck is Dave Williams.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Carol Mallon, the President of the Washington County Teachers Association. The county's public school system is an integral part of county infrastructure. 3,700 employees work for the Washington County Public Schools to provide services to 24,000 students in 46 schools. The majority are teachers, about 1,900. The second largest category, about 1,400, are educational support professionals who work directly with students or drive buses, provide lunches, or serve in jobs that must be filled in order for schools to operate. The smallest category, about 275 administrators, manage staff and school operations. For years, staff have had to do more with less as inflation and students' needs have outpaced the funding necessary to adequately keep up. The Blueprint law now requires local governments to allocate funding based on students' needs and the county's wealth rather than on the maintenance of effort formula. I hope that as you discuss funding, including any surpluses that occur in FY26, you will continue to work with Dr. Sovine and the elected Board of Education to address the diverse needs of students. With the Blueprint funding now in place this year, WCPS is receiving more county funding than before. I am thankful that the state is requiring counties to provide their fair share. But even with this increase, our schools have unmet needs. We have overcrowded schools with many students in portable classrooms rather than adequate facilities. We have millions in deferred maintenance. We have unfilled positions because we cannot find staff to work for the wages offered or to attract the teachers we need. Just this morning, Commissioner Harvey noted that the county needs competitive wages to attract and retain staff, and that the benefits you provide is one way that you do that. And the same is true for our schools. I urge you to consider our school employees as an extension of those who actually work for you, because we too are serving the community and providing a necessary and vital service for the county. So instead of complaining about the state's shift of a relatively small portion of pension expenses to county government, could you see that as an opportunity to further demonstrate your support for local educators? At today's meeting, you also celebrated anniversaries of the Community Free Clinic and Horizon Goodwill, and last week you recognized May as Drug Treatment Court Month and Historic Preservation Month. Well, the first week in May is also annually recognized as Teacher Appreciation Week. Why not recognize and celebrate teachers on your agenda too? The calendar actually includes opportunities to recognize all categories of school employees over the course of each year. I invite you to recognize school personnel regularly so that you can show your appreciation with a change in attitude and learn more about the challenges and successes staff experience every day. It's not only about the funding you provide, it's about your understanding of what it takes to adequately support our public schools and then prioritizing that commitment to go above and beyond the minimum state requirements to provide it.
Thank you. Dave Williams, and on deck is Ed Lowe.
Good evening, Commissioners. My concern this evening is with the amount of information that you provided in the Citizens Guide to the Budget this year. For over the past decade, at least, this document has been 24 pages long, and it hasn't been 24 pages filled with fluff. It's been 24 pages filled with valuable information. This year, the document's only 12 pages long, so there's 12 pages worth of information that is missing. For example, there are probably at least 5 pages of department expenditures by function that are not in this document. In the past, the format changed very little from year to year. So you could go back through the last decade or more of documents and very easily compare the county budget over that time period. Now you have 12 pages worth of information that's missing, makes that process a whole lot harder to do. So I would urge you in the future to go back to the 24-page format, provide all the information that you've provided in the past to make it easier for folks to understand what's going on with the budget.
Ed Lowe, and next on deck is Ethan Lowe.
Good evening. My name is Ed Lowe. I'm the president of the Board of Directors of the Washington County Commission on Aging. On behalf of our Board of Directors and the Washington County Commission on Aging, I want to sincerely thank the county commissioners for their long-standing and steadfast support of older adults, caregivers, and individuals with disabilities. The funds you provide continue to make a meaningful difference by enhancing our ability to deliver critical federal and state mandated services to this vulnerable population. As your designated area agency on aging, we know the importance of consistent and sustainable funding to meet the growing and evolving needs of our seniors, the fastest growing segment of our community. We deeply value our partnership with the county and are grateful not only for your investment, but for your dependability and commitment. We know we can count on your word and your continued support as we work together to ensure every older adult has the opportunity to age with dignity, independence, and respect in Washington County. Each of you are invited to attend our annual meeting, which is this Friday, May the 16th at 1:30 in the afternoon at the Senior Center here in Washington County. The Deputy Secretary, Liz Woodward, will be our guest speaker. We certainly hope that you are all able to attend. Again, that's 1:30 this Friday, our annual meeting at the Senior Center here in Washington County. Thank you very much.
Good evening. One of the things I want to point out is that what happens at the state level very much affects what happens locally. And so this year, when the governor came out, announced the budget, and declared that.
Can you state your name, please?
Oh, Ethan Lowen. And declared that we were in a budgetary crisis. And the reason he said that is that we are headed towards a 16% deficit at the state level, and by 2030. And the reason for it is, and which is unsustainable, by the way. You can't actually exist with 16% deficits. I call it the Three Stooges budget. But what it is that there is a lot of pain that's going to be coming with that. A lot of pain has already been announced. I mean, this is the year with the record-setting tax increases and fee increases, and that's just the beginning. There have been cuts to the roads budget, cuts to the disabled individuals, cuts to community college. These are things that just the state level is cutting. Other things are on the block. I believe emergency vehicles, there's been a cut to that. All those things are going to multiply as the ability to do record-setting tax and fee increases run out, because I think we started the year as the 13th highest tax and fee state in the country. And I believe we may end the year after all these increases just this year up to maybe number 9. And then there's next year, right? So what is it that's happening that's causing this? It's causing this crisis, as the governor stated. And what it is it's the public school spending. There's a series of laws that are packaged together called the Blueprint for Maryland. It is $3.8 billion a year being added. We collect for the state $27 billion. So that's an automatic 13% increase every single year that needs to happen just for the public schools. And what happens is all the other things that are getting cut, these are all things that need to be covered by the county, by you guys, right? By us, right? I mean, essentially what's happening is what the state is saying when they essentially say, no, the county's going to pay for it. What they're really saying is that, we know that Marylanders don't have the money to pay for this, right? No one has the money to pay for a 16% deficit when they're already the 13th highest feed and taxed citizens in the country. But what it says is that, well, we're just going to you're going to have to pay it to the county government. Well, that's nonsense, right? But what it is the suffering multiplies. And so I just want to point out that we as a group have to be aware of what is going on, and we have to demand better. We have to hold Annapolis accountable. But also I want to thank the county commissioners where, like with our bonds being at a AA rating, and yet the state is at a credit watch negative because of what they know is coming. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. With that, that's the sign-up list. Was there any additional added? No. Hearing none, then I guess that concludes our, make a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Motion is second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.